Hey, what's up guys? It's Joe from GadgetryTech.com, and today we are reviewing the StarTech dual 2.5-inch SATA RAID enclosure. Now this is a USB 3.0 interface. The model number is S252BU33R. So I'm not going to do an unboxing. It's pretty easy to assume what's inside. It's the enclosure and some wires, of course. So I left the box here just so you can see what it looks like. That's what it comes in. The drive is right on top and some cables and plugs are underneath it. So let's start with the accessories and what it comes with. Now this guy comes with a standard power cord. It'll plug into your AC outlet, and what's nice about this is if you live in different countries, you can push this little button and eject it or pull it down, and you have different adapters that it comes with to work in any country. So you can just snap it into place and now you're ready for, Europe, South America, stuff like that. So let's put the American one back on. So that's nice and easy. Now if you don't have an AC outlet available but you want to power two external drives or two 2.5-inch drives, it also comes with a USB power adapter. Now this works in junction with the USB 3.0 cable that's also included, and that'll plug into the back. So you'll have two USB ports being utilized, one for power and data. Now let's go to the enclosure itself. This is an aluminum case. It slides out from the back, so when you buy this, it doesn't come with the screws pre-mounted. It's in a plastic bag. That way you can quickly remove it. It's not that they're missing, so don't panic. Just open it up. You can start working on it. Now I already installed the Samsung 512 gig SSD in here. That was because I want to benchmark what this thing can put through the USB port, because USB 3.0, even though the theoretical speed is over 600 megabytes per second, you really don't get that. It's not, the CPU overhead, the USB storage controller, all that stuff. So I have the benchmark on the screen. We'll discuss that in a moment. But again, did not want to have the SSD be the bottleneck. Now if you look at the top, there's two dip switches. There's a channel 1 and 2, and you can set it to on or off, or 0 and 1. Now the combination of those goes through 4 modes. You have RAID 0, RAID 1, JBOD, and spanning. Now just to quickly get into RAID, this isn't a RAID video, but RAID 0 is what you will use for performance. So what that means is if you have 2 gigabytes of data, it's running one chunk of it to the first SSD and the other chunk to the second SSD at the same time, effectively doubling your read and write speeds. Now the problem is with that is because your data is separated onto 2 drives, yeah, the performance is great, but if one drive fails, you lose everything because you're missing half of the data that's supposed to be there for any particular file. So if you want extreme performance, use RAID 0. However, you're not going to get a huge speed boost on an external enclosure because you're still limited by the USB 3.0 interface, at least with using SSDs. Now RAID 0 would be better if you want higher performance from 2 mechanical drives that, let's say, top out at 110 megabytes each. You could theoretically push both to have over 200 megabyte read speed and still have 4 terabytes of storage on an enclosure, which is pretty remarkable. So going into RAID 1, RAID 1 is an automatic cloning or striping. So basically anything you write to this drive, let's say you have two 2 terabyte drives in it, the computer is going to see it as 2 terabytes total. And that's because anything you write to it is going to be copied from first drive to the second drive. So you have redundancy, and if it fails, you have a nice little LED system. The LEDs are actually here, but when you put them in the case, you have the LEDs that'll flash red. That'll tell you if a drive failed. Just replace that drive, and the RAID controller inside will rebuild that drive and reclone what's on the original functional drive back to the new replacement drive. And then JBOD means if you have 2 drives in here, one's a 2 terabyte, one's a 1 terabyte, your computer's going to see both drives, so you'll have a 2 and a 1. It's essentially acting like a hub. And spanning means if you have a 2 and a 1, your computer is just going to see 3, and it's going to fill up both drives as a single logical unit. That way you don't have to worry about managing separate volumes. Now again, when you go into spanning in RAID 0, you have some file integrity issues, so if your drive fails, you lose your data. Now this is set to JBOD because I wanted to benchmark it. Whenever you set the dip switches, when it's plugged in, just hold this button down for 10 seconds. It'll kind of restart the unit, and then power cycle it, and now it's switched into whatever mode you set it to. Other than that, there's not much to it. 4 screw holes for each drive. They're all there. You can line them up. If you take this screw out, I put 2 in. Actually, only 1 in. The drive just slides in and out. There's a little rail, and if you notice, they're actually quite thick, the spaces, so you can put any 2.5-inch drive in here without any problems at all. So there's no compatibility issues. They just plug and play. Now, the speed, and this is important because when you get affordable RAID controllers, they're not usually that fast. And the Western Digital drives, the old MyClouds, for example, you can run RAID 5 or RAID 0, but you're still only getting 50 megabytes per second through the network. And that's because the RAID controller sucked on those. It just wasn't that fast. This one is still getting me the full speed that USB 3.0 handles, so the RAID controller in it is really good. On this Samsung drive, I had a write speed of 277 megabytes per second with a queue depth of 32. And then if I have no queue depth, I can get over 300 megabytes per second, which is remarkable. I see a lot of benchmarks online getting anywhere from 225 to 260, so this is quite high in the theoretical peak of what you'd expect with USB 3.0 with an SSD. So there's no performance loss. You have a lot of flexibility in your configurations as far as the different RAID types, spanning, the JBOD, which is what I usually recommend because I like to manage everything on the computer myself. But what's nice is it's kind of a nifty enclosure because, as you can tell, it fits in my hand. It's quite compact for the capacity potential that it has. I mean, if you did, 2 terabyte, 2.5-inch drives, you can have over 200 megabytes per second and still have something you can travel with. So for portable video editors or something like that have to use the USB 3.0 interface and not Thunderbolt, this is a great little enclosure. It also looks nice on the desk because it's small enough I can fit it under my screens. I can lay it flat, of course. And it's pretty versatile. And then the last thing I want to point out on the back is there is a tiny fan. Pretty useless with an SSD, but if the temps get up there because you're running 2 WD black drives, which tend to run a little warm, that fan will kick on and help keep the drive temps at a reasonable degree, if you will. So other than that, it's a great unit. StarTech's made some really good stuff. Everything I reviewed from them has been really straightforward. Everything just works. The instruction manual is a little bit lacking, but as long as you're a techie, which most people buying an enclosure like this will be, the drive will work. The enclosure will work great for you, and you can really rest assured that any drive you plan on sticking in that thing will work and at the maximum performance potential of USB 3.0. So all in all, as long as you get a good deal on one, I can't see any reason why not to buy that as your enclosure. There's really no risk to it. Everything works. The LEDs function as they should. I can go anywhere in the world with them. I can power it through my laptop or the wall, and with USB 3.0 I get ridiculous speed. So I definitely have to give it a recommendation. If you guys have any questions, shoot me a comment below. I'll be happy to answer them for you, and thanks for tuning in. Bye.